You guys were in Tinnick. So he just, how long were you guys in Tinnick? Quite a while.
We moved out there when I was in the second grade, so that would have been
1932. Let's see, second grade would be about 8 years old. Is that right?
7.
7. So 31.
Yeah.
And then we was there, and I was there till I finished high school.
And so he was water service foreman and stationary engineer?
Now that's the title of the job he had at Tinnick. That was the title of the job.
So that's when he put the water and the oil in?
Water and the oil and all of that.
Oh, and when he had the gang, he was the water service foreman.
Right.
Oh. And then he became the general water service foreman. So did he get a gang again?
Well, yeah, by that time, I think Dad was the only one that was left that had foreman's rights, and he had, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys, and they covered the whole area down here then.
So at what point did they go from steam to diesel? Diesel, right?
Yeah.
Was he still working?
Well, that's the reason they folded up Tinnick, was when the diesels come in, why, there was no need for any of that.
They didn't need
That's
water.
what wiped out the town.
Oh. So did he retire at that point?
No, that's when he went back out as a general water service foreman.
Oh, I see. But he was still, you guys didn't move from Tinnick?
Well, by that time you were in the service, weren't you?
Well, I left home to go to work. I don't know how long before they left there to go to Lehigh.
So he was still working for the railroad when they moved to Lehigh? In that same house across from the rodeo grounds?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, he built that place, and that's where they lived.
Oh.
And I think Dad went till he was about 68 or 9. He went over at least 2 or 3 years over the 65 part. So let's see what else.
Okay, let me. Oh, this is terrible. I wish I could write better. Do you know how to spell the Var's name? I put Lavare.
I think that's the way I would have done it. I don't know.
R-E? It's not just L-A-V-A-R?
It might be.
It could be just A-R.
I'll just scribble that out. All right, where'd we get to? Did you ever smash your finger? It says, what were you doing to first smash a finger?
Jeez.
I know.
What a question.
That's okay.
I've smashed it a number of times, but I can't tell you which one.
I remember smashing my finger in Dad's panel truck.
Oh, closing the door on it? I did that with this thumb in a car.
But we were talking about the railroad. You bought a panel truck from the railroad and painted it pink. Yeah. You remember?
Pink? Really?
A what?
Pink? You painted something pink?
It wasn't.
It was a brown color.
It was kind of a pinkish brown.
I don't know that I painted it.
Yeah, you did.
Did I? Well,
yeah, I think you painted it with a paintbrush.
Could have done.
I mean, it looked good, but yeah, I remember smashing my finger in that panel truck, and I think the door latched on it. So, anyway, that's not Dad's story.
Who was the most famous person you ever met as a child? Or is there something else you want to talk about besides answering these questions?
I'm just trying to answer questions.
Okay.
Famous?
Meet any famous people? Blank, okay.
Frank and Jesse Parker.
Did you ever tell a big fib?
Oh, I'm sure I did, but I wouldn't know what it was.
You forgot it conveniently. And then this one says, tell about someone who had a big influence over your life, and you put both parents.
Yeah.
So, anything in particular about each one that Dad told, or your dad told you not to lie?
Like that.
Yes, you got to get the finger in there and the look too.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was only necessary once, though, I think.
God, just telling this story scared me.
So I repeat, you must have been more sensitive like Lana and I than hard-headed if he only had to tell you once.
No, I wasn't very sensitive, but back in those days, you only had to be told to do something once. You didn't have to prod somebody to do something. When you was told to do it, you done it.
But why? I mean, why was it different
one generation, the next generation, like you said,
you can't see a big difference in the way kids are raised?
Well, you said you couldn't tell Jerry anything, but
Well,
that's his personality.
That part's true. Jerry was, I don't know what kind of words to use, but, you know, he just...
had his own mind about things. Yeah.
So were any of your siblings like that, or were you all pretty, like, Grandpa told you to do something once and you did it?
I kind of think Glenn might have had a wild hair.
Now, see, there again, there's only 8 years difference between Glenn and I, but it was just like he was in another little group as far as what they done. And
well, okay, so back to what you were saying, though. You said you were kind of emphatic saying you don't see a difference between the way kids are raised now and the way they were back then. I'm assuming you're talking about the way they were disciplined back then.
Right.
So...
does any of your kids ever talk back to you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's good. No,
it is.
No. See, that's something that just wasn't done.
I don't remember talking back to you.
No, I know. Well,
did I?
I figured I was pretty damn tough with you. That's the way kids, they got to get started on the right track. And the tougher the parents are sometimes, when they're young, the better off they are when they get older. Mm-hmm. And I think today, just my watching, because I've watched kids sass their folks, and that's something that absolutely wasn't done.
Yeah.
So if they did, what was the typical punishment? Would
I don't
they get
know
spanked,
that
or
they ever had to be told. I don't know about anybody, being hit or anything from it, but...
So do you think it was more of a social expectation, like everybody just, it was so socially unacceptable for something like that to occur?
And not just in our family, everybody that I knew at that time, that's the way they raised their kids. I'm sure there was some of them that wasn't quite that way, but that was the standard, in other words. Now, and I've heard, like Janice's kids talk back to those two grandkids talk back to their parents, and that don't sound right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, tell of a nickname given to you by friends or classmates, and how did you get it? Friends or classmates?
I think I told you that.
But that was your family, wasn't it? Boots? I remember that somewhere.
Well, let's see, but I don't know. Kids are always coming up with some kind, especially boys kidding each other or something. But the only one I can remember anything about is, and I don't remember it, only hearing it once, one of the buddies I had that I played basketball with quite a bit mentioned the name Billy one day, and that's the only time I ever remember hearing it.
Billy.
I don't know why.
I'll just put Billy in a big question mark.
Well, what was the boots thing? I'd never
Your
heard
aunt,
that before.
his aunt.
Well, when I was first born, somebody had, I don't know, it was a fancy pair of boots, and
Booties.
that's when I was just a baby, and that stuck with me for the families that, well, for a long time.
Oh.
What was your favorite meal as a child?
All of them.
We was lucky to get a meal.
And you
No.
didn't leave anything on your
No,
plate.
we had plenty to eat. All
Oh,
right.
I'm just
I know it.
giving you a hard time.
Who was your first girlfriend?
I don't know.
There were too many of them to remember.
No.
Some of these I know.
Oh, so I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you have, like, back then, in like grade school, did people have, were their boyfriend and girlfriend? How did they socialize, or was it like wasn't until you kind of got into high school before you started?
Actually, what little bit I remember, I'd say there was very few, maybe 5 or 6 kids before I even graduated, that even kind of got together, couples. It was a later thing, I guess.
So dating in high school just really wasn't a thing.
No, not that I remember anything about. You know, they'd have the junior prom and the senior hop and something like that. You might get a date at that time, but other than that, like I said, it was just those few.
This one, what's the biggest problem you remember having in junior high? And you put 5 or 6 of the basketball team skipped school one afternoon and went down to the alley. We were all kicked off the team until we got a note from our parents.
Anytime you went down to Payson or any of those, we just called them Valley.
Oh, that's a V, Valley.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened that one time? I don't know if it's in here.
Well, what happened on that, when we got back, the principal called us in there and raised hell with us, and we had to get permission to get back on the team.
What'd your parents think?
Oh, I don't remember Dan saying too much about it, because that's probably the only time anybody ever done anything like that. But, you know, it was just one of those minor things that... And, of course, we had a principal kind of like all the rest. When he said something, that was law.
Did you guys ever get paddled in school by a teacher or principal?
I never did, no. I don't remember anybody... Well, I'll take this back, not me, but... some of the classmen older than me, some of them got pretty cocky, and then this new principal come in, the same one that took care of us guys, and I think he was some kind of a wrestling champ or something in California before he took the job, and he straightened those guys up.
Took them out on the mat?
You know, some of those seniors up there in the mining area, some of them thought they were pretty tough, and they found out that...
So how did he do it, though?
I don't remember how, but he had them straight right now.
He did one of these.
I don't think it was just a finger pointing.
Describe a place you like to go to be alone. Were there many times when you were alone?
I don't remember what it was.
I remember somewhere in here you did something again, and they made you take a singing class or a choir class or
Oh,
something like that.
no, well, when you signed up for classes in high school, we was seniors, I guess, at the time. And there was 5 or 6 of us guys that were basketball players and whatnot that hadn't really decided, and everybody couldn't get into Blight's class, so whatever it might have been. So somebody said, well, let's join the Glee Club.
Oh, okay.
And none of us knew anything about singing at all. But
did you learn?
not very much, I didn't.
So who was that guy? A favorite teacher or something?
Blight? Oh,
Blight?
yeah. He was...
One of those teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell about a favorite hangout place for you and your friends in junior or... Oh, in senior or junior high. Hello.
Say that again.
Tell about a favorite hangout place for you and your friends in senior or junior high. Or the opposite, junior and senior high.
You didn't have time for a hangout. You got up and done your work and went to school and practiced basketball and went home and went to bed.
Without supper?
No. We always had plenty to eat. That's one thing. There wasn't any.
So the cows, you would feed and milk the cows in the morning, and then Ralph would have to feed and milk them in the afternoon
Well,
or night.
after we'd get out of school and before dark, whenever we could get the cows in. And
Oh, so
So
you'd help him herd them in or something?
well, we actually, most of the time, we had plenty of hay and grain for them, but when it was good feed out in all over that country, we just turned them loose and had a bell on them, and we'd have to go find them, and a lot of them would just, now I say a lot of them, sometimes it was only one, but they would come in at about time to be milked and whatnot.
Yeah. Tell about the best pet you ever had, and you put the only pet was a hunting dog we had at Fost.
That was it.
Who
Was that Jigs?
Yeah.
Jigs.
That was before my time, but I've heard many Jigs stories.
Where's Sarah?
They're shopping.
They're shopping?
Yep.
Okay.
They'll be here
Did you have
soon,
any other
I
pets?
think. I don't know.
They had to be useful if they were going to be
No.
around. Tell about being in a school play or program. Didn't do
Wasn't.
that. Okay, I like that answer.
That was very verbose.
Tell about a school principal you remember, and you put Bishop at Tinnick High. That was that same
That's
guy,
right.
that
That's right.
the wrestling ex-wrestler, post wrestler.
You know, I'm not sure exactly when he left, but he was you'd probably call him a pro, all right.
Okay. Did you ever pretend to be sick as an excuse to stay home from school?
No,
No.
not that I remember.
Do you have a good story about yourself cussing? That's life.
I don't think I've got enough
Nothing
memory on this.
stands out.
No, I think was what that might be referring to as a kid, did you ever get in trouble for cussing as a kid? Like with your parents?
Cussing my parents?
No. Did your parents ever catch you cussing, and did you get in trouble for it?
I don't remember. We all got along pretty well together.
Did you ever get in trouble for teasing Marie?
I don't
The only
Oh, I
trouble
used
you
to
got was when you teased
tease
Ron.
anybody I could.
So this question is about Saturday and Sundays, and you said you played basketball, football, skiing, hunting. What does that say? Pine nut hunting. Oh, okay. And then tell about how you spent your Sundays, and you put same as Saturdays. So Grandma didn't make you guys go to church? I thought you
yeah.
did.
She pushed us for quite a little bit.
Okay.
So did Grandpa go to church?
Mm-mm.
What was the naughtiest or the meanest thing you remember doing in school, and what were the consequences?
He wasn't naughty.
That's what I thought
Hey.
he might say.
I'm thinking. In the school.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't
Or
get
any naughty thing.
you didn't get out of line in school. There was somebody there to straighten you up.
Well, remember that little trip that Glenn talked about taking with Stan? They hopped on a train, and did you ever do things like that?
There's one thing I forgot about, and that was in. I think I was a senior then, and they had Tinnick had a band and whatnot that went to Salt Lake, some kind of big celebration, and there was about 5 or 6 of us basketball players that had been together, and we decided to catch a freight train and go in and watch whatever was going on, and I didn't say anything to the folks. That's one time I did get in trouble, all right.
What time did
And
you
what
get
happened,
home?
we got in one of those, they used to have on the end of the cars a place to put all the ice. And we got, of course it was an empty, and we got in there and rode into Salt Lake and spent a day or two in there. And then
A day or two.
and when I got back, I was in a little bit of deep trouble.
Just a little bit.
What? So they were wondering where you were.
Yeah, see,
Turned
that
up
was
missing?
a stupid mistake on our part. We should have at least left some kind of an idea what we was going to do. And that's one time Dad really got upset with me, all right, which he should have done.
Did you get a spanking? Too old.
No, one of those.
You would prefer a spanking.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that little incident. That was one of the stupid mistakes I made.
So when he talked to you, did he say he was disappointed in you, or did he cuss at you, or how did he?
No, I don't remember him cussing too much, but
Just kind of
every word hit the mark.
How about Grandma when she disciplined you? Was that different than the way Grandpa would discipline?
She never did discipline.
Oh, really?
Well, if
You said wait till your dad gets home.
if she asked for something, well, we was only told, like I said, once. But I do remember Sassner one time, and that was enough of that. The minute Dad got home.
Oh, now the story's
Well,
coming out.
I can't remember everything
I'm
all at
just
once.
teasing
But
you.
that's the only time I ever remember ever talking sassing Mother at all. But,
How old would you have been?
I was up there.
Young and
in
dumb.
You get up there in the 13, 14, 15, you get a little cockier than you are when you're...
So did you guys take vacations together? Were there such a thing as vacations?
We went to Yellowstone once or twice.
In what?
Well, just tents.
No, I mean, what car did you? Like a
Or
a
whatever,
buggy? No.
whatever car we had.
Horse and wagon.
Dad wasn't into that kind of stuff hardly at all.
Camping?
Well, and in the 30s, you was damn lucky if you got out of there at all. So, but at that time, you could go to Yellowstone, and that's when the bears were all coming in the cars and tents, and then of course after when we was at Fost, let's see, we went up with the Badams. Don't you remember that?
Oh yeah.
That was a camping outfit. That was all in tents, and
That's when I wandered off.
right.
Yeah.
But on that question, so Len asked what kind of car would you have had back then?
Let's see, that would have been. When was it? Oh, it could have been a Chev van.
In 19... what year?
We got a van, and I think it was for some reason a 55 sticks in my mind, but that could be way off. That's what we had at Fost for quite a while too. Was that?
No, when you were a kid and you went to Yellowstone, what kind of car would you have had then? Model
I
A,
really
Model T.
Really don't remember much about. And we may not have went to Yellowstone with the folks. It might have been that trip that you was on that I was thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Very likely that was it.
So most of the time you were working, and if you took any kind of vacation, it would be just close around where you lived, or
We a lot. Yeah,
go to see
like in the summertime when you wasn't in school, we'd go down and spend a couple of weeks maybe at Grandpa Parker's place in Thin Beach and stuff like
In American
that.
Fork.
In American Fork.
Yeah.
And then we'd spend some time over to Lehigh in the summer, and then it was time to get back.
So on those trips, how many was there? 10? No.
What?
There was you and Ralph and Ron and Glenn or Stan, Glenn and Marie. That's 6 kids. So 8 of you got in one car?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was pretty cool. And at that time, I think that's when we had that Chev van, too.
So how long would it take? You were leaving from Tinnick and driving to American Fork. So that wasn't that long of a trip. Or was it?
You had to get down through all of those little valley towns, and you had the stop signs and all that stuff. Seemed like it was a big outing.
So
65 miles.
How did you guys entertain yourself in the car? Did you fight or you just stay quiet? You'd get a wrap up alongside your head. You done anything? I'm not
No,
supposed
that
to be
just wasn't
answering
done
these
back
questions.
Oh, I'm sure we scrabbled a little bit, but it was all in fun, and it was over.
Oh, okay. It didn't go on to where Grandpa had to reach back there and slap somebody.
I don't remember him ever having to do that.
You just go.
All he'd have to do is knock it off, and that was it.
What good kids?
Yeah, they didn't do anything wrong.
No.
That's what I hear. What was your favorite radio program?
You know, about the only thing I can. Of course, you listen to very little radio, but about the only thing I can remember much is even who was on the radio was. They had a Buck Rogers thing. No, that was at the movie thing. I don't know. We did.
So
Did they have the
after-
Lone Ranger?
Or The Shadow? Was it
Only
the
the shadow?
I don't know.
So what would you'd go to basketball, come home, take care of the cows, have dinner, and then just go right to bed?
Well,
Or would you play games or anything? Or Scrabble? Or
Basketball.
Wrangle?
I thought you played a lot of basketball. And
oh yeah, we'd be out shooting till dark.
okay, what about Ron always liked spelling games, and your dad liked math questions, or he'd give you a little.
Yeah, Dad, every once in a while, would give us a little math quiz, but
I thought he would give you problems or something that
yeah,
you had to solve.
but I can't remember what they might meant.
So was Buck Rogers your favorite movie? Or do you
Maybe that's about the only thing.
thing that they had, huh?
Well, and on Tuesday night, that's when they had this, they'd have the news, and then that's when this Buck Rogers stuff had come on, where they was walking across the light beam and stuff like that.
You got a dove in your backyard. You want me to go
Oh.
shoot him?
Is it a cat?
No,
Oh,
a
I
dove.
saw a black cat yesterday.
A dove. You got a mourning dove.
Oh, yeah, there's a
come
couple
all the
been
time.
around here.
Sorry, I just thought you'd want me to go shoot it so we could eat it.
And Dad would play pinochle. He'd take us up and we'd go to it was a 10-cent movie. We'd go to that on Tuesdays. And Dad would play pinochle till it was over, and then we'd go home. That was the weekly thing for quite a while.
A 10-cent movie. Wow.
And that's where Dad got so good on numbers and counting. On pinochle, the later game, you just counted the face cards. Well, back when they played, they counted every card, the face value of every card, and he could sit there and count them as he went.
And add it up?
Yep.
Was that? Oh wow, that's good. That kind of reminds me of that story you told, and I don't remember all of it, about